history of football. Although it is America's favorite pastime, no one really knows how the sport came to be. Football's birth date is the excuse me. Football's birth date in the United States was November 6, 1869, when teams from Rutgers and Princeton University met for the first time in intercollegiate football game. In the early games, there were 20 players to a team, and football still more closely resembled rugby than modern football. In 1873, representatives from Columbia, Rutgers, Princeton, and Yale universities met in New York to formulate the first intercollegiate football rules for the increasingly popular game. These four teams established the Intercollegiate Football Association, IFA, and set 15 as the number of players allowed on each team. Walter Camp, the coach at Yale, and a dissenter from IFA over his desire for an 11-man team, helped begin the final step in the evolution from rugby-style play to the modern game of American football. The IFA's Rules Committee, led by Camp, soon cut the number of players from 15 to 11, and also instituted the size of the playing field at 110 yards. In 1882, Camp also introduced the system of downs, after first allowing 3 attempts to advance the ball 5 yards. In 1906, the distance was changed to 10 yards. The 4th down was added in 1912. Within a decade, concern over increasing brutality of the game led to its ban by some colleges. Nearly 180 players had suffered serious, and 18 deaths had been reported from the brutal match plays that had become common practice. So in 1905, President Theodore Roosevelt called upon Harvard, Princeton, and Yale to help save the sport from demise. After a meeting between the schools, a reform was agreed upon, and at a second meeting attended by more than 60 other schools, the group appointed a 7-member rules committee and set up what would later become known as the National Collegiate Athletic Association, or the NCAA. This committee came with the legalization of the forward pass, which resulted in a redesign of the ball and a more open style of play on the field. The rough mass plays, which once caused so many serious injuries, were prohibited by the committee. Also, what was prohibited was locking of arms by teammates in an effort to clear way for their ball carriers. The length of the game was reduced from 70 to 60 minutes, and the neutral zone, which separates the teams by the length of the ball before each plays began, also was established. The modern game of American football had arrived. The birth of pro football was the date November 12, 1892, a day that will forever be elected in sports history, although no one involved that day could possibly have recognized the importance of the occasion. It was the day that Allegheny Athletic Association football team defeated the Pittsburgh Athletic Club. The game in itself was not a momentous event, but one of the circumstances of the game did make it a never to be forgotten moment in sports history. One of the AAA players, William Pudge Heffelfinger, was openly paid $500 to play the game. Thus, pro football made its debut more than 100 years ago. Its comparatively obscure surroundings that could not possibly have provided the slightest clue to the worldwide popularity the sport would be destined to enjoy, particularly in the waning decades of pro football's first century. In the early day, pro football historians agreed that 16-year-old John Brayler from Indiana College in Pennsylvania had become the first pro football player who accepted $10 in cakes, means expenses, to play for the Latrobe, Pennsylvania town team against neighboring Jeannette on September 3rd, 1865. But today, Brayler is ranked no higher than 7th in line among the early day players accepting paid to play. Listed are the first 7 players who were known to have been openly paid to play football. First was William Pudge Heffelfinger, Allegheny Athletic Association, Pittsburgh, $500 for one game on November 12, 1892. Second, Ben Sport Donnelly, Allegheny Athletic Association, Pittsburgh, $250 for one game on November 19, 1892. Third, Peter Wright, Allegheny Athletic Association, Pittsburgh, $50 per game under contract for the entire 1893 season. 4. James Van Cleve, Allegheny Athletic Association, Pittsburgh, $50 per game under contract for the entire 1893 season. 5th, Oliver W. Rafferty, Allegheny Athletic Association, Pittsburgh, $50 per game under contract for the entire 1893 season. Number 6, Lawson Foskis, Greenburgh, Pennsylvania, $20 per game under contract for the entire 1894 season. And last, John Brayler, Latrobe, Pennsylvania, $10 and expenses for the one game on September 3rd, 1895. In conclusion, the history of football and the birth date of pro football was very interesting, because even though I don't watch much football, I have learned a lot about the sport that is still going forth even as of this day and time. It is true that the players may get a concussion or a broken ankle, but it is not just about a ball, a number on a jersey, or whoever made the last touchdown. It is about the bond between the ones who are wearing the jersey. It is about the bond between the ones who are wearing the jersey. Football is a brotherhood that can never be broken, no matter how many times you win or lose. And as a fan, I have learned that it is more important to encourage the players to keep going instead of giving up because of a game lost or a player hurt. So enjoy the sport of football, but be careful while playing.